his job back today. In a statement, the club said late this afternoon, having taken into consideration all the factors, the board has unanimously decided to reinstate Lou Macari. Well, this bold statement is a remarkable turnabout and a total victory for the Swindon fans who demonstrated and clamoured for Macari when he was fired over the weekend. From Swindon, our sports reporter Ian Seymour.
Well, it's been a truly remarkable day at Swindon Town, indeed a dramatic day. For 2 hours, starting at 1 o'clock, the board of directors, and there were 10 of them, had one subject on their mind: whether or not to reinstate Lou Macari as manager of the club. Well, shortly after 3 o'clock, the chairman, Brian Hillier, came out and read a very short statement. In effect, he said that after due consideration of all the facts, the board of directors had unanimously decided to reappoint Lou Macari as manager. Sacked 5 days ago, now back at the helm. Needless to say, Lou Macari was extremely delighted when we spoke to him, and he admitted for the first time it was the worst 5 days of his life, and during the course of it, he had a secret tear.
I've got 3 lads who have been sort of fanatical Manchester United supporters, and we've come here, and it's fair to say in 9 months the fanatical Swindon Town supporters. I didn't know how to approach it, but telling them that their dad was no longer the manager of Swindon or a player for Swindon. And it took a lot of courage for me to go in and tell them that. Now, I was expecting a reaction, and really I didn't get one. And when I left the room, I started crying, and I expected them to do that.
The events of the last few days has been a very traumatic time in the history of Swindon Town, and we have considered all of the facts at our disposal this afternoon, and as we've briefly said, we have reappointed Lou Macari as our manager.
A unanimous decision?
Yes.
So Lou Macari, in his own words, is back home. Now he has the difficult job of getting the team ready for Saturday, and in addition to that, he says that over the next few days he's going to appoint a new assistant manager.
Swindon Town's board met this afternoon and decided to reinstate manager Lou Macari. Macari was fired because he couldn't get on with his assistant Harry Gregg, who also lost his job. Supporters launched a big campaign to get Macari reinstated, but the club's chairman, Brian Hillier, says that didn't influence the board. Chris Vasher went to see him as his team prepared for their home game tomorrow at Northampton.
Former Scottish international Lou Macari was back at work today after the most bizarre saga of sackings followed by supporters' revolt the club has ever seen. Macari's former assistant manager, Harry Gregg, who was also fired after their so-called clash of personalities, hasn't been taken back. His job goes to one-time Swindon captain and manager John Trollope, who's been with the club for over 20 years. Today, Lou Macari said he was delighted with the fans' support. But what of suggestions that he'd been sacked for weak management?
Of all the events this week, that is the one thing that's hurt me most, being accused of being soft, because on the football field, I mean, I'm not soft, I'm not scared of anyone, no matter what their size or no matter what their height is. And definitely off the field, in the street, I'm not scared of anyone either.
Are you concerned that this may have a long-term effect on relations between you and the board and at the club?
No, I would hope the long-term effect will be that it has brought the board, myself and the fans here a lot closer together. Because if I'm being honest, since I've been at this club, I didn't think the fans were as close to the club as they should have been.
You don't think this affair's had a bad effect on the team?
Well, I mean, obviously the players weren't walking in as normal every day. They didn't know who was the manager, and one day someone was the manager, next day someone else, and I'm back now. All very confusing.
Are you going to take a different approach to your management now because of this?
Well, I've learned. I mean, I'd be foolish and I would be telling lies if I said I couldn't learn and I didn't come here to learn. That's what I did. That's what I came here for. I'm human like everyone else, and there's very few managers could have came here, I think, and not made the same mistake as I made.
Lou Macari on Saturday, and there were some incredible scenes as the reinstated manager arrived at the ground after a week of anguish which had seen him sacked for not sacking his assistant manager and then brought back again.
Just a few minutes before kick-off, and Swindon Town fans are streaming into the county ground here, many of them preparing to welcome back Lou Macari as manager. Last weekend he'd lost that job, sacked by the board of directors. Now he's reinstated, mainly due to the support of the fans and the players. It's been seen as a sensational move, unprecedented in football history.
There was no doubt in the minds of the die-hard supporters. The man they wanted was back.
Well, I didn't think I'd be driving back down here this week, to be truthful. And obviously, without the support here, I wouldn't have been.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lovely, Lou. Welcome back, Lou. Lovely.
Thanks a lot, lads.
The former Scotland and Manchester United star admitted he was apprehensive, but he needn't have worried.
He's always struck me as an honest sort of character, very enthusiastic, and I think he'd be good for the club.
Board wants sorting out a bit.
So what would you say to the directors if you could speak to them now?
Retire, resign.
What do you think about Lou Macari being reinstated as
I
manager?
think it's great.
Do you?
Fantastic, fabulous.
Why?
Because I think he's the greatest. He's going to get us in the 3rd division, you know.
Macari's response to that reception at the ground was to kick free footballs into the crowd. Sacked because of a personality clash with Harry Gregg, the men who changed their minds on this watched the adulation. The goal to seal Macari's return was spectacular. Acrobatics paying off for centre-forward Colin Gordon, one of the few positive moves in an otherwise untidy match. Swindon just having the edge over ragged Northampton. Even Macari in the dugout was on the end of wild play. Swindon's second goal was courtesy of Northampton's Wakely Gage. He deflected a Lee Barnard shot past his own keeper. So victory for Swindon and their manager after a traumatic time for the club.
I can't describe the past week. It's been an event at Swindon Town that I never for one minute dreamt would happen. Especially in this town where we were getting a regular crowd of 2,500 and everyone came and enjoyed their football. No one would have thought TV cameras would have been here. No one would have thought the press would have been here, and the force they have been. And it's all been a new experience, I think, for everyone at the club and everyone in the town. And the next time you're here, I hope it's for football reasons.